Hi Year 6, I'm going to read chapters 22 to 24 for you today. I was with the baby. We were tucked up together in the blackbird's nest. Her body was covered in feathers and she was soft and warm. The blackbird was on the house roof, flapping its wings, squawking. Dr. McNabola and Dr. Death were beneath us in the garden. They had a table filled with knives and scissors and saws. Dr. Death had a syringe in his fist. "Bring her down," he yelled. "We'll make her good as new." The baby squeaked and squealed in fright. She stood at the edge of the nest, flapping her wings, trying for the first time to fly. I saw the grey, bare patches on her skin. She didn't have enough feathers yet. Her wings weren't strong enough yet. I tried to reach for her, but my arms were hard and stiff as stone. "Go on," yelled the doctors. They laughed. "Go on, baby, fly!" Dr. McNabola lifted a shining saw. She teetered on the brink. Then I heard the hooting of an owl. I opened my eyes. Pale light was glowing at the window. I looked down, saw Mina in the wilderness with her hands against her face. "Hoot, hoot, hoot, hoot." "I didn't sleep all night," I said, once I tiptoed out to her. Then at the very last minute, when the night was ending, I did. "But you're awake now," she said. "Yes. We're not dreaming this. We're not dreaming it. We're not dreaming it together. Even if we were, we wouldn't know." The blackbird flew to the garage roof. Began its morning song. "No time to waste," I said. We went to the door, stepped inside. We moved swiftly through the furniture. I shone the torch on his face. "You have to come with us," said Mina. He sighed and groaned. "I'm ill," he said. He didn't look at us. "I'm sick to death," he said. We squeezed through the gap between the tea chests and crouched before him. "You have to come," she said again. "I'm weak as a baby," he said. "Babies aren't weak," she whispered. "Have you seen a baby screaming for its food or struggling to crawl? Have you seen a blackbird chick daring its first flight?" She put her hand beneath his armpit. She tugged at him. "Please," she whispered. I held him too. I tugged. We felt him beginning to relax, to give himself up to us. "I'm frightened," he squeaked. Mina bent close to him. She kissed his pale cheek. "Don't be frightened. We're taking you to safety." His joints creaked as he struggled to rise from the floor. He whimpered in pain. He leaned against us. He tottered and wobbled as he rose. He was taller than us, tall as Dad. We felt how thin he was, how extraordinarily light he was. We had our arms around him, our fingers touched behind his back. We explored the growths upon his shoulder blades. We felt them folded like arms. We felt their soft coverings. We stared into each other's eyes and didn't dare to tell each other what we thought we felt. "Extraordinary being," whispered Mina. "Can you walk?" I said. He whimpered, squeaked. "Move slowly," I said. "Hold on to us." I moved backwards between the tea chests. Mina supported him from behind. His feet daggered across the ruined floor. Things scuttled across us. The garage creaked. Dust fell. His breathing was hoarse, uneven. His body shuddered. He whimpered with pain. At the door he closed his eyes, turned his head away from the intensifying light. Then he turned again and faced the daylight. Through narrowed, veiny eyes he looked out through the door. Mina and I gazed at his face, so pale and plaster dry. His skin was cracked and crazed. His black hair was a tangle of knots, dust, cobwebs, blue bottles, spiders. Beetles clung to him and fell from him. We saw for the first time he wasn't old. He seemed like a young man. Mina whispered it. "You're beautiful." I peeped out across the wilderness towards the house. Saw nobody at the window. Keep moving. I opened the gate, drew him by the hand. He leaned on Mina, shuffled out after me into the lane. I closed the gate. Already traffic could be heard in the city, on nearby Crimden Road. The birds in the gardens and on the rooftops yelled their songs. Whisper appeared at our side. We'll carry him, I said. Yes, said Mina. I stood behind him and he leaned back into my arms. Mina took his feet. We caught our breath at our ability to do this thing, at the extraordinary lightness of our load. I closed my eyes for a moment. I imagined that this was a dream. I told myself that anything was possible in a dream. I felt the great bulges at his back bundled up against my arms. We started to move. We walked through the back lane, turned into another back lane, hurried to the green gate of the boarded house. Mina opened it with her key. We went through. We hurried into the door with the red sign, Danger. Mina opened it with her key. We moved through into the darkness, then into the first room. We laid him on the floor. We trembled and gasped. He whimpered with pain. We touched him gently. You're safe, said Mina. She took off her cardigan, she folded it and lay it beneath his head. We'll bring you more things to make you comfortable, she said. We'll make you well. Is there anything you would like? I smiled. 27 and 53, I said. 27 and 53, he whimpered. I'll have to go back, I said. My dad'll wake up soon. Me too, said Mina. We smiled at each other. We looked at him, lying beside us. We won't be long, I said. Mina kissed his pale, cracked cheek. She stretched her arms once more round his back. Her eyes burned with astonishment and joy. Who are you? She whispered. He winced with pain. My name is Skellig, he said. Mrs. Dando called that morning just after breakfast. She came on a bike on her way to school. She said my mates were looking forward to getting me back again. They say you're the best tackler in school, she said. Dad showed her all the work we'd done in the house. We'd showed her the wilderness. She said everything would be bright and new for when the baby came home. She took her bag off her back. She took out a little cuddly black bear for Dad and gave it to give to the baby. And there's this for you, she laughed. Sorry. It was a folder of homework from Rasputin and Monkey, worksheets with gaps to fill in and questions to answer. There was notes from Miss Clark's. No real homework. Write a story. Get well soon. There were sheets of maths problems and a book called Julius and the Wilderness with a red sticker on the back. Dad laughed as we watched her cycle away. No rest for the wicked, son, he said. I'll do the decorating. You get on with your work. I got a biro and took the work along the street to Mina's front garden. She was sitting with her mum on the blanket underneath the tree. Her mum was reading. Mina was scribbling fast in a black book. She grinned and beckoned me over the wall when she saw me standing there. Mina looked at the worksheets. It is thought that the man is from the apes. This is the theory of... This theory was developed by Charles... There was a sentence after sentence like that. Mina read the sentences out loud. She said, blank, 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 in a sing-song voice when she came to the dashes. She stopped after the first 3 sentences and just looked at me. Is this really the kind of thing you do all day? She said. Mina, said her mum. Mina giggled. She flipped through the book. It was about a boy who tells magical tales that turn out to be true. Yeah, looks good, she said. But what's the red sticker for? It's for confident readers, I said. It's to do with your reading age. And what would other readers want to read it? Mina, said her mum. And where would William Blake fit in, said Mina. Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forest of the night. Is that for best readers or the worst readers? Does that need a good reading age? I stared back at her. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to get back over the wall and go home again. And if it was for the worst readers, would the best readers not bother with it? Because it'd be too stupid for them, she said. Mina, said her mum. She was smiling gently at me. Take no notice, she said. She's a madam sometimes. Well, said Mina. She went back to scribbling in the black book again. She looked up at me. Go on then, she said. Do your homework like a good schoolboy. Her mum smiled again. I'll get on inside, she said. You tell her to shut up if she starts getting at you, okay? Okay, I said. After she'd gone, we said nothing for ages. I pretended to read Julius and the Wilderness, but it was like the words were dead and meaningless. What are you writing? I said at last. My diary, about me and you and Skellig, she said. She didn't look up. What if somebody reads it? I said. Why would they read it? They know it's mine and it's private. She scribbled again. I thought about our diaries at school. We filled them in every week. Every so often Miss Clarks checked that they were neat and the punctuation was right and the spellings were right. She gave us marks for them, just like we got marks for attendance and punctuality and attitude and everything else we did. I said nothing about this to Mina. I went on pretending to read the book. I felt tears in my eyes. That made me think about the baby, and doing that just made the tears worse. I'm sorry, said Mina. I really am. One of the things we hate about schools is the sarcasm that's in them, and I'm being sarcastic. She squeezed my hand. It's so exciting, she whispered. You, me, Skellig. We'll have to go to him. He'll be waiting for us. What should we take for him? What is this place? I asked her as she opened the gate. We stepped back into the long back garden. We ducked down and hurried to the danger door. It was my grandfather, she said. He died last year. He left it to me in his will. It'll be mine when I'm 18. She turned the key in the lock. We're having it repaired soon. Then we'll rent it out. We stepped inside, carrying our parcels. Whisper slipped in at our heels. Don't worry though, she whispered. There's weeks before builders come. I switched my torch on. We went into the room where we'd left him. He wasn't there. The room was silent and empty, as if he'd never been there at all. Then we saw Mina's cardigan behind the door and dead blue bottles on the floorboards. We heard a whisper meowing from the stairs. We went into the hallway and saw the shape of Skellig lying halfway up the first flight. Shattered, he squeaked as we crouched beside him. Sick to death. Aspirin. I fiddled in his pocket, took 2 of the tablets out and popped them in his mouth. You moved, I said. All on your own. You moved. He winced with pain. You want to go higher, said Mina. Yes, somewhere higher, he whispered. We left our parcels there, lifted him together and carried him to the first landing. He groaned and twisted in agony. Put me down, he squeaked. We took him to the bedroom with the high white ceilings and pale wallpapered walls. We rested him against the wall. Thin beams of light pierced the cracks in the boards and the windows and shone down on his pale, dry face. I hurried back down for the parcels. We unrolled the blankets we had brought. We laid them out with the pillow on the floor. We put down a little plastic dish for his aspirin and cod liver oil. I put an open bottle of beer beside it. There was a cheese sandwich and half a bar of chocolate. All for you, Mina whispered. Let us help you, I said. He shook his head. He turned over onto all fours and started to crawl the short distance toward the blankets. We saw his tears dropping through the beams of light, splashing onto the floor. He knelt by the blankets, panting. Mina went to him, knelt facing him. I'll make you more comfortable, she whispered. She unfastened the buttons on his jacket. She began to pull his jacket down over his shoulders. No, he squeaked. Trust me, she whispered. He didn't move. She slid the sleeves down over his arms and took the jacket right off him. We saw what both of us had dreamed we might see. Beneath his jacket were wings that grew out through rips in his shirt. When they were released, the wings began to unfurl from his shoulder blades. They were twisted and uneven. They were covered in cracked and crooked feathers. They clicked and trembled as they opened. They were wider than his shoulders, higher than his head. Skellig hung his head towards the floor. His tears continued to fall. He whimpered with pain. Mina reached out to him, stroked his brow. She reached further and touched the feathers with her fingertips. You're beautiful, she whispered. Let me sleep, squeaked Skellig. Let me go home. He lay face down, his wings continued to quiver into shape above him. We drew the blankets up beneath them, felt his feathers against the skin on the backs of our hands. Soon, Skellig's breathing settled and he slept. Whisper rested against him, purring. We stared at each other. My hand trembled as I reached out towards Skellig's wings. I touched them with my fingertips. I rested my palm on them. I felt the feathers, and beneath them the bones and the sinews and the muscles that supported them. I felt the crackle of Skellig's breathing. I tiptoed to the shutters and stared out through the narrow chinks. What are you doing? She whispered. Making sure the world's still really there, I said.